When's the last time you had an airport?
I don't know. A few weeks ago, maybe.
All right. I want to give you things to notice on your next trip, because otherwise it's just a drag to go through and TSA and everything. Just some things to notice and to think about.
You mean things like we've become a slovenly country that looks like we're going to the damn bathroom in the middle of the night when we travel? Put some clothes on, people. Real clothes.
No, they got their pajamas on because they want to sleep on the plane. Cut them some slack.
No.
Right. So here you go. So the first thing, at the TSA, you got the X-ray machine, right? You got the X-ray machine.
Okay.
I just want to alert you of something. If there was a day, and I'm old enough to remember, before anything got X-rayed. You know why? Because nobody had an X-ray machine to do it. And in the 1960s, there was a spate of hijackings. Many of them were to Cuba, because our diplomatic ties had been broken off, and because the Cuba they were commies, right? They were sympathizers with the Soviet Union, and they were in our hemisphere, and so we didn't have planes to Cuba. So if someone wanted to fly to Cuba, they had to hijack a plane. So I don't mean to laugh, but the hijackings to Cuba were common. So Congress said, we got to stop this. The only way we can do it is maybe we can X-ray your luggage. Okay? So, does anyone have an X-ray machine that we can just drag into here and do this? Right? That's not so large like you find in the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Astrophysicists of the early 1970s had just miniaturized X-ray detectors to put into satellites to observe the universe in the X-ray part of the spectrum. Because black holes and matter swirling in down the throat of a black hole just before it goes to die radiates X-rays. And we calculated this, and we knew this, and we said, we're going to find black holes in the universe. We need an X-ray telescope. Well, the X-ray machines are huge. Then we got to make them smaller to fit into the orbiting satellite. And so a company called American Science and Engineering, based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, okay, pioneered small X-ray detectors, and then they got tapped by the government and say, will you bring those into every airport in the country, every international airport? And thus was born X-ray detectors at airports because of astrophysicists. I'm just telling you.
Were any of these astrophysicists also hijacking planes? Because I can see a connection.
The conspiracy theories.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the leaders of that was a guy named Riccardo Giacconi, and he was also a professor, a scientist up at the Harvard College Observatory, the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. Today, it's just called the Center for Astrophysics. And when I was an undergraduate there, I worked in his group, the X-ray group. We did some things, all right? And he would later be given the Nobel Prize for pioneering X-ray, opening up an entire new window on the universe, X-ray astronomy. So, and another cool thing is I would later be tapped by the White House to serve on a committee to give out the Presidential Medal of Science, okay? And this is under the George W. Bush White House. So I'm there, and we get invited to the ceremony. So I'm ready to enter the White House. And we awarded it to him. He'd already gotten the Nobel Prize. Dude, give him the Presidential Medal of Science, okay?
Right,
so
exactly.
So he's coming into
a little bit of a letdown.
Right, I know. But so he comes in, right, and he's going through there's this house you have to walk through before you get to the White House. And that's where all the security measures are. So he's walking through, and I can't help but notice the White House is using an American Science and Engineering X-ray detector, which this guy invented. It was his company. It's his company. And it's what we have come full circle here. There it is.
That's so funny. Is like the guy who made the thing that you're using for security is the ultimate security risk.
Because he would know what.
Because he knows all the back doors if there is any.
Because he invented, he knows what. Yeah, exactly. That would be the case.
Yeah,
if you're using his machine, he'll know how to
get around anything in his own inventions. You know, if he had come to the White House when I was head of security, I'd been like, nah, get that guy up against the wall, full pat down, full pat down.
Cavity search.
That's right, everything. We got to make sure this guy knows how to hide stuff. Believe me.
So anyway, so when you go through, they're not ASNE detectors anymore, but that was the birth of that entire movement. And it was astrophysicists. Serving our needs happened to also serve the needs of the government. By the way, I retell that story in my book, Accessory to War, the unspoken alliance between astrophysics and the military. And more broadly, it's between astrophysics and security.
Hey, I'm Adrian Solgaard, and I've reinvented the suitcase. I love to travel, but I can never stay organized. You know when you get to your hotel, you open your suitcase and everything goes everywhere? That's why we created the Carry-On Closet, a revolutionary suitcase that keeps you organized on the go. The Carry-On Closet has a patented built-in shelving system, compression straps to save space, and it even won Time Magazine Best Inventions of the Year. Oh, and for every suitcase sold, we saved 229 plastic bottles from going into our ocean. Learn more at solgaard.co.
So, Chuck, so the interesting thing about X-rays, we think of them as penetrating through objects, right? Special kind of light energy.
Yes.
But it's not as weird as you think, okay?
Okay.
You realize visible light penetrates glass.
Okay.
That's why windows are made of glass.
Okay. I mean, listen, I know that was a scientific stretch, but
Okay, but wait a minute, but let's keep going here. Do you know that glass blocks X-rays and high energy light? Okay?
all right, now we're doing something.
So not all substances are transparent to all bands of light. That's
Okay.
all I'm trying to say.
I got you.
Okay? So microwaves, which is what your phone use to communicate,
Right.
they clearly pass through walls because when
Yep.
you go indoors, you can still use your cell phone.
I mean, unless of course you have Sprint. I mean,
Stop.
then give it up.
Stop.
You know what I mean? Like, oh my God.
Hey, there goes Sprint as a sponsor of StarTalk.
Yeah, exactly. I'm roaming in the kitchen, but not in the living room? What? Okay.
So microwaves pass through walls that are otherwise opaque to you. So the fact that X-rays go through like luggage and things and human flesh, you know what X-rays don't really go through? They don't really go through your bones.
I was about to say, why don't you, if you really want to fool an X-ray, just make everything out of human bones.
No. So it does not go through bones. So bones cast a shadow on what it is they're trying to view.
Ah, so
See?
really, what you're not seeing the bones.
You're not seeing the
themselves.
bone. You're seeing the fact that
You're
the
seeing it.
X-ray went everywhere else except
But-
the bones.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's like when you stand in front of the sun and you do a puppet, on the ground, a shadow puppet. It's really just it's not the image of your hand, it's the absence of your hand.
Correct. It is.
Right.
It is. You're giving meaning to the absence of sunlight,
Right.
where your hands had blocked the photons from hitting the
Exactly.
sand. Right. So that's what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
That's
and
cool.
so
That's cool.
when Wilhelm Röntgen discovered X-rays, and he put his hand in front of it, and he saw that he saw the bones. He could barely see the flesh because it went right through his flesh. Okay.
Right.
When you're looking out a window, you're not looking at the window. You're looking at what's beyond the window. Okay. So he doesn't see he sees the bones because the X-rays were absorbed by the bones. And you also think I saw his wedding ring or something, which absorbed even more X-rays. And that was like pitch black rather than sort of grayish.
And please do not ask why his wedding ring was made out of human bone.
Stop.
He's a weird, kinky man, that Wilhelm.
Wilhelm Röntgen. In fact, in all the rest of the world, they call Röntgen rays rather than X-rays. Yeah. So, point is, X-rays are useful for looking through your luggage and finding things that you might make a weapon out of, typically out of metal. But they will not find weapons made out of things that are not metal and are otherwise transparent to plastic, like a plastic gun. Right? If you make a plastic gun, it's not going to find it in the same way it would reveal a
regular metal gun.
So here's what
Big
you
time-
can
big
do
time
now.
Controversy on that too about printable guns.
Correct. So here's an interesting thing you can do. like you said, like I noted, the bone does not completely block the X-rays. It just blocks more X-rays than your flesh does. So it casts its own mild shadow in the photograph. Okay. If you have different frequencies of light and you interplay them, you can see what the trend line is in the thing's attempt to absorb it or not. And once you do that, you're better at detecting what could be in the suitcase if you move the frequencies back and forth. But what they also do is they attach color. This is the literal use of false color, where you attach a color to the edges of signals that are shown up in the image, in the X-ray image. Because your eye picks up color much better than it picks up tiny changes in a grayscale shadings. All right? So if I say anything grayer than this level, make it red, and anything less gray than that, make it blue, your eye, boom! I see red and blue as two completely separate things rather than as the continuum that it is. So the folks back there, the TSA, they have a fascinating task ahead of them to identify objects and shapes and highlight them in ways that it makes it easy for the person looking at your luggage rather than harder.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I wonder, do they assign a special color to sex toys? Because they tend to somehow find them all the time.
I've never seen this ever happen. Is this you trying to pull sex toys through the security? Is this?
I'm just saying, I don't know how every time it.
You heard that this happened.
That's what I hear. That somehow they're just like, got to check that one, and it's just like, nope, just another sex toy. Sorry, everyone. Everything's great. All good.
No
This
reason to
guy
be
here-
alarmed.
this
Just
guy
another
right here-
sex toy.
Sir, you're free to go with your sex toy.
And by the way, those flappy things at the entrance with your luggage into the machine,
Yes.
they're like have heavy metal particles in them, so the X-rays don't come out. So don't reach in there because it's trying to shield you from the X-rays that would otherwise leak out of that hole.
Nice.
There you go.
Well,
There
that
it
is super. I have to tell you, I will never look at the X-ray machine again the
This is
same
what I'm
way.
saying, and I want you to think of astrophysicist when you do.
I will now, which I have never done before. I can say that with
X-rays are just another band of light that comes to us from the depths of space that humans on Earth, with excellent engineering, has exploited for all manner of social, cultural, geopolitical purposes.
Look at that. Thank you, Wilhelm.
Okay. All right, Chuck, that's all we had time for this explainer.
Okay.
X-rays in the universe and X-rays at the airport. Chuck, always good to have you. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, finishing up yet another explainer for Star Talk. As always, keep looking up.